everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Boost Fleet Business Success by Queclink. I am Rachel from Queclink marketing team, and I will be your host and moderator for this exciting event today. A warm welcome to all of you wherever you join us today. Please click test speaker and microphone at the bottom left to get yourself ready. Let us know you can hear us by clicking raise hand. Tell us if there is a problem in the Q&A and a Queclink panelist will help you. Okay, great. Thanks again. As we proceed, I encourage you to be active participants. Use the chat and Q&A features to ask questions, share your thoughts, and build connections with your fellow attendees. Let's make this webinar an interactive and enriching experience for everyone. Over the next 45 minutes, we are fortunate to have Verno, our UK Sales Director, and Travis, Senior Support Technical Engineer here to share their insights, experiences, and knowledge. Now, let's dive right into business success and begin our exploration of new generation video telematics solutions. Hi, Verno.
Hi, Rachel. Firstly, thank you for that lovely introduction. Welcome, everybody, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And thank you so much for making the time to be with us here today. We genuinely appreciate it, and we're truly honored to have you with us. A little bit about the agenda today. So first and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about Queclink as a company. We're going to give you a market overview of the video telematics arena. We're then going to dive into the product itself, the CV200 dashcam, which is what we're here to discuss today. We're going to look at its features, its functional highlights, etc. And then we're going to look at some use cases around optimizing operational costs, driver safety, and insurance claims. So a little bit about us, first of all, for those of you who don't know Queclink. We are a publicly traded company on the Chinese stock exchange with just over $1 billion US dollar market cap. To date, we have around 52 million devices shipped out worldwide. We have about 3,800 customers worldwide, and that's growing week on week. And we operate in around 140 countries. We have a compound annual growth rate of around 71%, which I think if you take into account the economic turmoil over the last couple of years, I think that's a pretty impressive figure. We have a workforce of around 500 employees worldwide. And for me, to be honest with you, I think probably the two most salient points on here are the last two. 62% of our 500 plus employee force are engineers. And I believe that's indicative of our company's drive and focus to create and engineer the best products for you, our customers. And then finally, I've always said in all my years of telematics, which is a long time now, the mark of a good company is what it spends on research and development. Queclink have 3 R&D centers in China. These are state-of-the-art facilities. And a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to go and visit one of them. And I have to say, I was absolutely blown away by the level of technical prowess shown within the R&D centers, the skill of the individuals, the machinery, the equipment. It was, for me, a truly amazing experience. So we're an industry leader. We're definitely one of the biggest in our sphere in terms of what we do. We have an incredibly broad product lineup, and that ranges from your basic self-powered asset tracking devices all the way through to incredibly complex CAN and tachograph enabled devices. We have a range of Wi-Fi routers, and believe it or not, we also do livestock telematics. Within our product lineup, we have some very niche and specialized products geared towards the user-based insurance market, stolen vehicle recovery, and of course, what we're here to talk about today, the dashcam range. We have a global presence, as I alluded to in the previous slide, 140 countries, but we have localized teams in those countries as well, which means culturally, linguistically, we can address the needs of our prospects and our customers in the most efficient way, giving them a truly localized presence and support. Remember those R&D centers we talked about? Well, one of them is dedicated specifically for the EMEA market. In fact, we shipped around 5 million devices last year. More than a third of those were destined for EMEA. And as you can tell by the last point, for us, EMEA is a crucial market, and there's an intense focus from Queclink on that EMEA market at the moment. If we look at the video telematics market in general, this information on the screen in front of you was taken from Berg Insight. There were around 5 million units shipped out in 2022. These are video telematics units. Berg Insight are forecasting a compound annual growth rate in this sector of around 18%, which equates to about 11.3 million devices in use by the year 2027. And if you look at that bar chart on the right-hand side, I think it's indicative of the strong growth and potential of this buoyant market. Queclink see this as an incredibly important sector, and I'm sure you as individuals and companies will agree. So let's look at some key challenges and objectives when implementing telematics. This is a little bit of telematics 101, and anyone who's been in this industry as long as me, forgive me for going through this. It's a bit like teaching granny to suck eggs, but I think it's important to run through all the same. One of the key challenges and objectives within this is reducing operational costs. So think about things like fuel, maintenance, wages, overtime, downtime of vehicles. Reduction of costs in any of these areas is beneficial to a business and can lead directly to an improvement of the bottom line. Managing insurance premiums, well, due to the very nature of their business, commercial fleets will traditionally have much higher premiums than yourself or myself. How do you reduce those premiums? Quite simply by managing the risk and reducing it. And that's what the dashcam range will assist with, which we'll talk about later on today. And then enhancing driver safety. There's nothing more important than getting your drivers back home to their families at the end of a day. In fact, I've always said your driver is probably your most important resource. You can have a beautiful fleet of vans, trucks, cars sat in your yard, but if you don't have drivers for those vehicles, they're useless and non-productive. So being able to identify and manage bad habits, bad behavior, driver behavior, monitoring fatigue, and improving your overall driver standards within your fleet will lead to a reduction in incidents and obviously the enhanced safety of your employees. And then finally, technology integration. Telematics is always an expensive, difficult process to go through. And it's important right at the beginning to make sure that whatever system you're choosing will dovetail into your existing systems. I've always said also it's important to make sure that the system is adopted from a grassroots level. Get your drivers buy-in. If you've got your drivers buy-in to the telematics solution that's being used, by pointing out that it's a benefit to them, you will get the return on your investment. So looking at those use cases in a bit more detail. So optimizing your fleet operational costs. Well, the big one, of course, is fuel. How do you reduce fuel? Being able to monitor and identify bad driving behavior, bad habits, aggressive driving, excessive idling, all of these can lead to fuel savings, which again is a bonus to your bottom line immediately. Effective dispatching, so with telematics and video telematics, being able to identify the best placed vehicle to go to a specific job, for example, will reduce downtime, it will lower wage costs and overtime costs, and ultimately, it'll improve your productivity. And then training and coaching, which telematics has become all about. Having access to footage and driver behavioral information will allow you to give retrospective coaching and training to your drivers, improve their overall driver style, but as I said earlier on, ultimately reduce that risk within your fleet. So in talking about driver safety, let's look at accident and event capture in a bit more detail. So dash cams are obviously continuously recording footage, which can be used as evidence in the event of an incident. Camera can be configured to store that information in the cloud. So every incident, for example, every harsh cornering event, harsh braking event, or an accident, God forbid, you're able to upload that information directly to the cloud. I also always say to companies when employing telematics or video telematics technology, make sure you inform your drivers that the footage that's being gathered can be used to protect them and protect them from false claims. Often, when it's the case of an accident, your driver might be blamed by the other party. It's important to be able to point out that actually your driver wasn't at fault. This footage can also help to expedite claims, which is crucial, and we'll talk through that in the next slide. So driver behavioral monitoring, again, having all that lovely telematics information in the vehicle, your harsh cornering, your braking, all that type of thing, linked with footage is an essential way of providing that targeted training to your drivers after the event or after a day's driving or a week's driving. And then finally, I just wanted to point out incident reporting. So all of our cameras are equipped with a button. Pressing that button will create an event. Obviously, once you've done that, that event is loaded straight up to the cloud. I had the opportunity to use this feature myself once, where I was actually sat in a line of traffic. I wasn't driving. I was at an intersection. Somebody came through a red light and collided with a vehicle that was in the right. I was able to press the button and gather pre and post incident footage, share that with the driver who wasn't at fault, who was then able to share that with his insurance company. So I think that's a really useful feature to point out. If we talk about insurance claims themselves, so again, accurate accident and event data, that continuous recording, having that footage enables you to share that information directly with your insurance company, which obviously leads to the second point of improved liability assessment. Your insurance company, once receiving that footage, can clearly assess liability, whether that was your driver's fault or whether that was the other party at fault. What happens then? It leads to quicker claim processing. Those of us in the industry obviously know that the longer a claim drags out, the more it will cost. Think about higher car costs. Think about downtime of vehicles. The longer a claim goes on, the more it costs. And therefore, having this footage to hand leads to much quicker claim processing, which is obviously good for your insurance premiums. So the market trends within telematics, well, it's been around a while now, and we've seen an increasing demand for AI-powered video analytics. And what is that? Well, quite simply, up until now, we've talked about someone within the business looking at the telematics information, looking at the driver behavioral information, looking at the video footage. But this is time consuming. AI-powered video analytics means that there's a computer that's actually doing this. Much faster, much quicker. It can handle far more at one time than one person can, which leads obviously to lower overheads, wage costs, etc. The analytics can provide and identify patterns, pick up anomalies much quicker than people can, and obviously then provide valuable insights to the business, but also suggest specific training methodology. Driver behavioral monitoring. So previously in the world of telematics, we had all the basics. We had your starts, your stops, your harsh corners, harsh braking, etc. And those were great. With the advent of video telematics, though, we were able to add in more metrics to look at how drivers were behaving. Things like being distracted, fatigue monitoring, crucial in terms of getting risk down within your fleet. And then there were dual-facing and multi-camera solutions. So yes, we had all of the data. We even had footage. We could see what was going on, but we couldn't see what the driver was doing at the time of that incident. And so the demand for dual-facing cameras came about. People wanted to look at a driver's face whilst an incident was going on, make sure that he wasn't distracted, make sure that he wasn't smoking, eating, etc. But we also realized in Queclink that a lot of companies didn't want an all-in-one solution. There is some kickback on GDPR and things like that, where companies are uncomfortable with driver-facing camera technology. So we've introduced a new camera that gives you the best of both worlds. And that's effectively what we're here to talk about today. That camera is the CV200 series dashcam. That's it on the left-hand side of the screen. And the first thing I would say is the first thing that sort of struck me when I looked at the camera physically was its compact, elegant design. And I use the word elegant because it genuinely is. When you see this camera in the flesh, it's a lovely looking piece of kit. It's very small, it's very compact compared to the other cameras with this technology in the marketplace, which tend to be quite large, bulky, and take up a lot of windscreen space. It has a full HD 1080p front-facing camera out the box, and it has 4G live streaming capability. It has a very low-cost entry point into the marketplace, and there are probably some of you wanting to know what that low-cost entry point is. I would say to you, please get in touch after this, and I will gladly run through the commercials with you. But knowing the marketplace, knowing our competition, all I'll say on this webinar is that we are highly, highly competitive in terms of our pricing. There's an upgrade path to increase your sales and revenue. And with that, what I mean is there's a secondary video channel within this camera. So yes, out of the box, it's a single forward-facing unit, which gets away from those people who perhaps don't want to have a camera facing their drivers. But what it does mean is that you can add a range of secondary cameras to the CV200, depending on your use case. We'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. It has DMS and ADAS functionality. I've asterisked the ADAS functionality because that will be a firmware update that we'll be delivering to the market early in 2024. The DMS capabilities are ready to go as we speak. True telematics from a dash camera. I've asterisked that as well, and I will cover that in a later slide. But effectively, our camera is Bluetooth enabled, which allows it to communicate with various other devices. Again, I'll cover that later. And then finally, our camera is based on Android technology. So it's always awake and always ready. Now that doesn't sound like too much, but believe me, from my time back in the video telematics market, I was always asked by customers, right, I've parked my van or my car up in a car park for the day. Somebody has reversed into it or driven into it and then driven off. Have you captured an image of that vehicle or that person? Well, the answer traditionally would have been no, because most cameras tend to take about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to wake up and then start taking footage. Not the case with our camera. It's awake within a couple of seconds, 4 to 5 seconds, and taking footage or stills depending on how you've configured the camera to work. So that's a little bit about the camera in general. Let's look at those secondary camera options now. And the first of them is the DMS or Driver Management System camera. So this is a device that sits in the vehicle, faces your driver, and provides those additional metrics I was talking about earlier on. So monitoring things like smoking, phone calls, distraction, drowsiness, yawning and eyes closing, essential things to be monitoring your driver for. Now, you might not necessarily want to alert your driver to the fact that he's smoking or having made a phone call, because these are choice items. So again, within our camera, you can configure it to send an audible alert for certain events and not for others. Whilst you might still be capturing the smoking or the phone call and looking at that retrospectively with the driver in terms of his driver behavior, when things like drowsiness or distraction occur, you certainly want something in the cab that's going to alert the driver to what he's doing and hopefully wake him up, let him pull over and make himself safe. So that's the first camera. As I said, there are multiple options for multiple use cases. The next camera I want to talk about is the interior camera, which is an HD camera and infrared as well. Now, you could have this as a driver-facing unit, but think of this in a taxi scenario. You could have this in the back of the vehicle, monitoring the passengers within a taxi, seeing how they behave, and obviously gathering that footage. A dome cargo monitoring camera. So this would be mounted inside the sealed back of a van, for example, loading cargo, unloading cargo. Remember that Bluetooth capability I talked about earlier on. So we can link this camera to Bluetooth door switches as well. So let's imagine that same scenario where you've parked your van in a car park. Somebody's come to prise the back doors open to steal the stock or whatever's in the back of the van. As soon as that door switch is broken, again, the camera springs to life within a couple of seconds and starts taking footage of the would-be thief attempting to steal stock or stealing stock. And then finally, the rear camera. So waterproof, what we call rear or backdoor camera, can be mounted, as you can see in the image on the screen, at the top of a van. Not only would that monitor rear collisions, for example, it would also be able to monitor stock and equipment being loaded on and off of a van. So those are your secondary options. Any one of those 4 cameras that we looked at can be added to the CB200, either at point of sale or, as I said, later down the line as an opportunity to increase your revenue from a customer who's just getting into video telematics. The next thing I want to touch on is the insurance market. And I believe that our camera is a fantastic offering for the insurance market for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it has an incredibly high 256 gigabyte internal storage memory card. Now that equates to around 60 hours worth of driving, depending on how you configure the camera before it overwrites. Bear in mind also, as we said before, all of any events that happen will be automatically uploaded to the cloud. The other major attraction for the insurance market with this, I believe, is the flexible power deployment that we have with this camera. So it can come with an OBD power loom. And I want to stress here that our OBD power loom is just that. It's only collecting power to power the camera. Nothing else. It's not touching the can of the vehicle in any way, shape, or form. What's great about this is it enables the insurance company to package this up, ship it out to an end user who can literally go and self-fit the device to their vehicle, be that van or car. Then driver ID. I thought I'd mention that as well because I have had this from some insurance companies who want to know who was actually driving the vehicle. It's great having forward-facing footage, but you've no idea who's behind the wheel. So we have a range of driver ID fobs which can connect and give driver identification for the insurance market as well. And then finally, within the insurance offering, there's the optional rear camera that we talked about before. So an insurance company could package this whole thing up and send it out to an end user who could self-fit. And I believe genuinely that this is a completely holistic insurance offering from a camera perspective. Moving on, and just to recap what we've looked at so far, the CB200, obviously, it's, as I said, it's a smart 4G dash cam with full telematics features. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. We've talked about the flexible deployment with that OBD power cable. We've talked about the optional secondary cameras. We've talked about the smart AI, ADAS, and DMS functionality. The one thing I didn't mention was the integrated mic and speaker for SOS situations. Again, if you configure the camera in a certain way, you could have complete two-way audible communication with the driver of a vehicle. And then all-in-one telematics. So not only can we give you your traditional live starts, stops, location, speed data, and driver behavioral information, your harsh cornering, harsh braking, etc., but we can now, via the Bluetooth functionality of this camera, connect to our Bluetooth CAN module, which will allow you to take other feeds like fuel, for example, and add that into the bundle. So traditionally, where you were looking at having to fit 2 types of devices, a telematics unit and a camera to get an all-encompassing solution, you can now do it just with the camera. We talked about live streaming monitoring, and we've talked about the incident and event uploads. The last feature I want to mention, and funnily enough, this was asked of me by a customer just yesterday. The camera is Wi-Fi enabled, and it has what we call station mode. What that means is to reduce airtime, you can configure the camera if it's coming back to a yard, if the vehicle's coming back to a yard or back to a house at the end of a day, every day, you can configure the camera to basically, when it gets within that authorized Wi-Fi signal, to begin downloading all of its footage that way, keeping your airtime costs at an all-time low. Well, that's it really. I just wanted to give you an overview of the camera, its functionality, and what it looks like. We're now going to move to a Q&A session where I'll be joined by Travis Kenny, who is our technical FAE in the UK, and we look forward to answering any questions you might have. Thank you. I see we've got some questions in the chat. Trav, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Right.
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, perfect. I'm just going to bring my video up as well. Can you see me on the video? I don't know if you can. Oh, my video is not enabled.
I can see you on the video, bud.
Okay. So yeah, there has been only one question so far within this chat, and that was just related to can you download through API? I've kind of responded to that, saying obviously the device itself, we provide the device. We don't provide a platform as such, but we are integrated with several third-party platform providers. So the device itself can upload directly on event to a platform via FTP. But equally, if you want to request any data or footage from the vehicle, that can be requested again via the platform directly through a command to the device. The device will then process and then obviously send up to its FTP location. That is in addition to obviously the footage that's stored locally in the SD card is obviously available on event to make sure that critical data, critical footage is still maintained and not overwritten. There is partition within the SD card, which will allow any critical data to be stored more long term rather than overwritten. Just seeing a couple of other questions. What's the total number of video channels on the CV200? So the CV200 has 2 channels. So the first primary channel is one that can't be changed. That is the forward-facing dash cam. That is 1080p high definition camera at 30 frames per second. Then there is the secondary channel, and that is the channel which has an optional, well, the options that were provided earlier, different cameras that can be used. One being the driver facing with infrared capabilities, or potentially passenger facing, or in the rear of a taxi, for example. There's also a cargo 360 dome camera. And then in addition, we've also got the rear facing camera, for obviously adding that secondary kind of view to any sort of accident, i.e. if it's a bump from the rear, obviously from the front. Deployed in the field, we have our CV100, which is deployed in the field. The CV200 is a new product, so currently we have, I think, a few hundred to maybe 1,000 out there in the field currently. We initially put out the devices with our preferred customers who could then do the initial testing for us. We've obviously done testing ourselves. And then we work with some key partners to make sure that we get it out there in as many use cases as possible, to be able to ensure that by the time we get out into the marketplace, we've got a nice quality product ready to go into the marketplace. So at the moment, it's still early days for this product because it's still quite fresh. As you'll hear, Vern's mentioned already that there's still enhancements and features that are being added at this point in time. So and then what? Yeah, sorry, that's yeah.
Absolutely. Patrick, as I said, I would love to have a chat with anyone around the commercials on the camera. And just going back to Travis's previous point, I don't know whether you missed the slide right at the beginning where we talked about the number of devices that Queclink ship out on a yearly basis. Last year was around 5 million devices. Our failure rate is nominal. And that should give you an idea of the quality of the products that we ship out. Travis, the last one for you there in terms of protocols available yet for developers.
Yeah, so yeah, everything is available. So the firmware, we've actually on our 2nd generation firmware currently as we enhance features. There'll be a new firmware coming out again, adding a few more additional features. Some of that is really just to the Bluetooth capability at the moment, not the primary function of the vehicle, the device. So we're actually adding additional functionality for things such as the CAN integration, which I think Vernon mentioned, and also things like door sensor integration as well. So these things are very soon to come out. But in answer to the question directly, yes, the telematics protocols are available for developers. If you email to support@queclink.com and request that, obviously we can then probably have a discussion and start talking about availability and then giving you hopefully access to a device that you can go and test yourself.
Right. Oluwafemi is asking if the camera with the camera being Bluetooth enabled, can it connect wirelessly to the tracking device? Oluwafemi, the camera is the tracking device essentially. It has full telematics capabilities within it. So starts, stops, harsh cornering, harsh braking, all of these things. the Bluetooth connectivity allows us to connect to other things within the vehicle. For example, the CAN Bluetooth module I was talking about will allow you to pick things up like fuel consumption within the vehicle. We can also connect to things like door switches, as I mentioned earlier on, which from a theft perspective is fantastic. As and when those door switches are open, the camera immediately comes to life and starts to take footage of whoever's opened the rear doors of the van. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please contact us afterwards if you want further information. And I don't think there were any other questions that I could see.
At the moment.
Must have done a good job. There's only a few questions.
I suppose I can probably add a bit more technical information. Again, if you're interested, please contact Vern, either sales at queclink.com or any other information regarding tech information will be support at queclink.com.
Brendan's asking,
sorry,
Brendan's asking which markets the cameras are available in. Well, there's two permutations of the product, Brendan. There's the EU model and there's an NA model, which is for the North American market. So it can pretty much be deployed into any marketplace at the moment.
Yeah.
How many Bluetooth devices can be connected? Oh, that's a Trav question.
At the moment, I think so the main Bluetooth connectivity we had at the moment is with the key fob. So I have one of these here. So that's a key fob of effectively the driver identification element that Vernon was talking about earlier. I think at the moment the device can take up to 10 of those key fobs initially. We do have other firmware working on other devices that will enable effectively up to 300 of these. So again, there is things that we're looking at for the future in terms of feature enhancements.
I tell you one thing we should probably talk about, Trav, given that customer call that we had yesterday where I was asked about the accelerometer within the camera, the frequency of our accelerometer.
Yeah, so the accelerometer runs at 200 hertz flat. That's crash detection or anything. So it isn't different between the two. So it's 200 hertz. The capability of pre and post is flexible within the configuration. For example, if you take, I think it's 500 readings before and after is equivalent to about 2.5 seconds before pre and 2.5 seconds post on crash detection.
And there's another question from Gino around the modem, Trav. He's asking, the modem is 4G, but does it cover 2G as well?
It will have it has a 2G fallback for obviously certain data, but obviously you're not going to be able to use the 2G data for any of the video-based data. So standard fallback to 2G for your telematics data, and obviously 4G is required, or saying that the Wi-Fi connection if you're using the station mode for any of the bigger data such as photos and videos.
And Dimitri's asking, he knows that Wylon have already added the CV200, but he's having challenges receiving the live stream through the Wylon platform. I think that's on their development road path, Dimitri, but maybe, Trav, maybe you know more about that. We can certainly talk with them.
Wylon, I haven't been involved in the Wylon implementation. We have with another partner. If they have it available, then the challenge will probably be with how they've set up their streaming. I would suggest at the moment having a conversation with them. If you do have continued issues, though, please come to us, go to support, and we can probably kind of be the in-between to try and support you on that. We support many customers with setting up the live streaming because, again, it is a capability, but the service has to be set up by the provider. So we don't set up the service, but we can support you in the configuration of that. So if you continue to have problems, please contact support at queclink.com and we will do everything we can to try and help you there.
Yeah. Oluwafemi is asking as well, as an interesting one, Trav, he's asking about using the cameras on motorbikes for incident capturing and reporting. That's not something I considered. And I think, to be honest with you, Oluwafemi, it's probably down to how you would mount that camera on a bike. There's no reason why it couldn't be used on a bike. It is predominantly designed for cars and light commercial vehicles. But yeah, you could use it on a bike. And again, you could use any of that. Well, you could use I would say the rear camera that we talked about. And again, you just need to think about installation of those cameras onto a motorbike. Could be quite tricky.
Yeah, and also it's the IP rating of it. Your external, obviously the internal camera is designed to be windscreen mounted. It's internal, therefore it's not IP rated. So you'd have a challenge with that, I think, certainly for motorcycles. Regarding external camera, the only real external one which would be IP rated is the rear camera that we provided as a secondary. So yeah, your challenge would be IP rating, really.
Yeah. And I think that was the last question we have so far. I don't know if anyone else has anything else they would like to ask. I'm just going to move the screen onto the next one, which gives you the contact email addresses.
Yeah.
There you go. So if anyone has any further questions, they can submit them to those two email addresses. If you've got me on LinkedIn and you want to have that commercial discussion, please, by all means, reach out and we can have that chat. We've got two more. We got one from Steve. Will the CB200 have OTA? I'm assuming you mean over-the-air updates.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Queclink, we do provide a management server, our QMS server, which will manage your device management, but equally you can manage that yourself if needs be. That's something you want to do as a platform provider yourselves. So there is all the capability to manage over-the-air updates for both firmware and configurations.
And then Gino asks, do you see the camera replacing IVMS? And I presume you mean in-vehicle monitoring system there. I'm not sure what IVMS stands for, Gino, but we see it enhancing what vehicles currently come out with. Things like some vehicles will come out with some ADAS capabilities, and yes, we can see it enhancing those. Would it ever replace it? Difficult to say. What you've got to bear in mind, though, is that you've got a fleet of multiple brands of vehicles. Each one is going to have a slightly different ADAS system. The idea with putting in a solution like this is you have uniformity across your fleet. So you'd be looking at one set of reports and being able to measure and benchmark your drivers against that single metric rather than multiple metrics for different brands of cars. Looking at Daniel's question, will there also be a recording? I believe so.
Yeah.
We'll be able to share with anyone who wants it, Daniel. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Just following on from the IVMS piece, obviously we've got the DMS already, and the DMS, I think Vernon's talked through in terms of the things that we can capture with that, in terms of drowsiness, yawning, and so on. With the new addition of the ADAS, the functionality that we're initially providing will be forward collision warning, pedestrian collision warning, and also headway monitoring warning. So the headway monitoring warning, for those who don't know, is basically how far ahead of you is the vehicle, and is there an imminent danger? Are you traveling too close? Opposed to I'm going to crash, which is your forward collision warning. This is more of you need to probably get back a bit further. So those will be the initial ADAS functionality that will be provided on the camera coming into the first quarter of 2024.
Even answer to your question, how do you get hold of one to test and integrate? By all means, drop us an email to Global Sales, or if you've got me on LinkedIn, Steve, or if you don't have me, add me, message me directly. I'll gladly have a conversation with you, and we can get you a unit out to test and to begin integration work. We'd love to work with you. I'm just trying to see if there's any more.
Sorry, on the AI one. So the AI capability that we have within the camera, that is something that we haven't developed ourselves. We've integrated it with a partner. So that is integrated into our camera via a partner. So it isn't effectively externally available. It's not something that we offer to add on or enhance any other products. It is purely related to this camera, and that's the partnership with our AI partner. If that makes sense.
That last comment. Okay. Don't know if there's any any other questions, I've missed them. It's quite tricky getting them through the chat here because it tends to jump down. I don't know if I've missed anything.
Probably note for those who are interested in it in terms of certification, obviously CE approval, FCC approval, EMARC, ROIS, WE, REACH, POPs, several approvals obviously to try and manage across the different regions. We've obviously gone through the process of trying to certify where we've needed to for each individual region. UKCA will be something that we're working on quite soon. I think that is coming to play very soon. Obviously, CE covers that for the moment in time, but we'll be making sure that it covers under the UKCA as we move forward for UK customers as well.
Right.
I think we talked about most of the capabilities on the recording stuff. Has anyone got any questions, I suppose, specifically about maybe the integration?
Gino's telling us Paul had a question unanswered. I'm just going back. Thank you, Gino, for that. I'm going back through. I think Travis did answer that one. Does the device run your own AI software which interfaces to third-party tracking?
Yeah. The answer to that is it doesn't run our own AI software. We integrate it with a third-party provider. So we have a partner that actually we utilize their AI technology and integrate it into the camera.
Yeah. Steve, the CB200 is internal antennas, yeah?
Yeah.
High gain internal antennas.
Yeah, internal, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's nothing other than a single, but I do have one right in front of me here. If anyone wants to see it, this is the device. So the only thing that you'll see that's external is this, which is the power. That is the power, and that is the primary kind of connection for the loom. That's it. So that is the camera. Your kind of size, put it next to my face, and that's the rear of the camera here. Side of the camera, this is where your SD card will go. This is where your SIM card will go. Micro SIM, and there's also a connection port in there for any local updates that you can make. So the device is available to update over the air, but obviously you can connect to it locally using one of our apps as well, which will then again manage your configuration. That's the kind of thing that we'll do to try and define the configuration up front. So that if you were to order any product, we would obviously do free configuration as they come in the box ready to go.
And Steve's asking 12 or 24 volt.
Both, it can take that. It can take both of those. I'll just quickly find the range for you because I can't remember what the range is. It is here somewhere. I think it's up to 30. No, it's up to 40. I'll have to come back to you on that, Steve. I can't quite find it at the moment. There we go, up to 32, 8 to 32 volt. So it can run 12 or 24.
Brilliant. Today is asking, he says it would be helpful to have a live demonstration. Well, this is the first webinar of a few that we're going to do today. So if you keep your eyes on LinkedIn, you'll see some coming up in the near future, which will have a live demo of the camera on our partners' platforms. We're going to be doing this with various partners. So you will see the camera, the footage, etc. on their platforms. Hope that helps.
Yeah, we will be providing that as we move forward. Hopefully, obviously, with all of the incidents and examples of any things that's happened, so we can run through that.
Yeah. So we're at 2:45, so 14:45 UK time, which was our allotted time for this webinar. If there are any other questions, if you want to just fire them in quickly now, otherwise we'll move to close the session. As I said, those email addresses on the screen in front of you, if you think of something after we've gone and you want to ask the question, by all means, reach out to either of those two email addresses or to myself or Travis directly on LinkedIn. We'll be more than happy to assist. But I would just like to take the opportunity to thank you all again so much for joining us today. I know everybody's incredibly busy, and it was really, really good to have you with us here today. So if there's no further questions, Rachel, I don't know if you're still there and whether we should close the webinar down. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add as a...
I'm here. Hello, everyone. Here again. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your efforts and engagement in this webinar. And please stay connected with us. You can follow us on LinkedIn or subscribe to our newsletters, and we will send you the updated information about our dash cameras and new products. Yes, thanks again. Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you,
Steve, look forward to
everybody.
chatting soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.